When my father introduced me to a room full of high-ranking generals as a glorified assistant who was only there to pass out spare pens, he had no idea I was about to save his life. As a senior defense intelligence strategist, my whole career existed in the shadows, where tiny details meant the difference between peace and total disaster. He saw paper pushing, but I saw patterns everyone else missed. The formal treaty hall buzzed with cameras as two allied nations prepared to sign a historic defense accord. My father, Colonel Thomas Callahan, stepped forward with immense pride to present his personal engraved pen to Colonel Gerald Vance for the final signing ceremony, but the instant Colonel Vance uncapped the heavy metal pen, a tiny mechanical click echoed through the air. My heart stopped because I recognized that precise sound. Without missing a beat, I deliberately dropped my leather folder onto the marble floor and dropped to my knees. Looking directly at Colonel Vance, I delivered a razor-sharp warning in fast Spanish, urging him not to sign because the pen was a weapon. Colonel Vance froze instantly and placed the pen down. Seconds later, tactical officers led by my husband Jason swarmed the stage, securing the perimeter before anyone could react. Specialists carefully dismantled the gift and discovered a microscopic explosive hidden inside the ink chamber, engineered to detonate under the physical pressure of a signature. The blast would have killed Colonel Vance instantly and devastated everyone standing near the table. My father turned pale as chalk, realizing his treasured gift was actually an assassination device. Instead of receiving praise, security protocols forced guards to escort me down into a basement holding room. Sitting in a windowless room, I faced Commander Brenda Vance from Internal Affairs. She acknowledged that I had prevented a tragedy, but demanded to know how a linguist knew about a threat that advanced military sensors had failed to detect. I explained that 2 days earlier, while analyzing intercepted audio channels, I caught a faint Spanish phrase through a ventilation duct. Someone whispered that the pen was the bullet, mentioning a man named Victor. Growing up as the daughter of a decorated officer was never easy. My father measured worth through physical combat, military medals, and raw authority. When I showed a natural talent for foreign languages and global signals intelligence, he dismissed my abilities as useless in real warfare, famously stating that words could never stop a bullet. I learned to keep my head down, earn my rank quietly, and let people constantly underestimate my true capabilities. During my early deployment in South America, I uncovered a subtle cipher hidden within diplomatic printouts, preventing a deadly canyon ambush and saving 17 soldiers. That mission earned me the internal call sign Anchor, because an anchor holds the entire structure steady during a storm. Yet despite my growing reputation across the intelligence community, my father still viewed my work as little more than secretarial translation, never asking about the operations I quietly managed. When 2 military police officers brought my father into the holding area, his usual rigid posture was entirely gone. He stared at me with deep confusion and asked why I had not warned him sooner about the pen. I looked him dead in the eye and calmly told him that he had never listened to me. The heavy silence that followed proved that my words had finally pierced through his decades of stubborn pride. My father admitted that Victor was an old war buddy who had saved his life during a brutal jungle ambush years ago. Victor resurfaced recently, presenting the custom pen as a symbol of past brotherhood, knowing my father would pass it along without hesitation. Victor weaponized my father's absolute belief in old military loyalty. My father had allowed sentiment to blind him, while failing to realize that loyalty without verification is a fatal vulnerability. News of the foiled summit explosion leaked to military blogs, where online commentators mocked me as a lucky assistant who happened to be in the right room. Media headlines spun wild theories, while ignoring my credentials as an intelligence major. Inside headquarters, official commendations were delayed by endless bureaucracy. I did not care about public fame or corporate titles, because true intelligence officers work in total silence, letting results speak for themselves. Later that night, I found my husband Jason in the tactical gear room, meticulously cleaning his equipment. Sitting on the cold floor beside him, I confessed that internal review boards were scrutinizing my security clearance. Jason reached into his vest, pulled out a bent paper clip I had given him before his last deployment, and reminded me that my quiet courage saved lives. His unwavering faith gave me the strength to keep standing tall. Accessing classified audio logs, I listened to Victor during his initial interrogation. Victor mocked my father for being blinded by ancient honor, proving that my father was never an accomplice, but rather a foolish pawn in a larger conspiracy. Armed with keycard timestamp records showing how Victor used an unverified observer badge, I gathered undeniable evidence showing exactly how the breach occurred, preparing a comprehensive dossier for the formal disciplinary board. Late that evening, my father sat alone in his office holding a folded letter, offering to resign his commission to protect the family name. I stepped inside and told him that running away would let critics write his story. I urged him to stand firm, face his mistakes publicly, and demonstrate real accountability. For the first time in my life, my father listened to my advice with genuine respect and poured 2 cups of black coffee. At the formal military hearing, my father stood before the council in full dress uniform. He openly admitted his failure to verify the gift and acknowledged his blind reliance on personal history. Then, in front of top military command, he publicly gave me full credit for preventing a national catastrophe, stating that rank does not equal clarity and praising my swift action. The tribunal room fell into profound silence as he saluted and sat down. Following the hearing, leadership offered me an immediate promotion to senior director with a high-profile corner office. I respectfully declined the high position, explaining that I preferred working on the ground where critical details go unnoticed. I did not need a higher title or fancy desk to validate my worth. Returning to my post, I noticed that fellow officers no longer brushed past me, greeting me with newfound professional respect. That evening, my father called me into his quarters and showed me an old framed photograph of my academy graduation that he had secretly kept for years. Apologizing for years of distance and doubt, he admitted that he was wrong to dismiss my instincts. He picked up my original identification badge, framed it carefully, and called me by my official call sign, Anchor. He thanked me for holding the world together when he almost failed. The next morning, Jason and I sat together in the quiet mess hall as sunrise flooded the windows. He smiled and noted that my father had finally learned the true meaning of legacy. Looking out at the base flag, I realized that true strength is not loud or demanding. Real power comes from staying steady, listening carefully, and having the courage to act when everything is on the line, keeping the bridge from falling